covered in darkness. The same kind of darkness you see now. 1 in 7 people then cook in darkness, and they dine in darkness. And their children, for many of us, new students here like you and I, not only do they study in darkness, they cross through rough roads and deep forests, getting home with no light to guide them through the hazards in their path. What would life look like if what you see right now is what you saw for half of every day of your life? Well, the good thing is, with even just a little bit of light, you can start to see me, and I can start to see you, and I can start to see what a good-looking audience I have here. And the other thing is, 1 Million Lights Philippines has been dedicated to giving these lights across the country for years now, and for the last 2 years alone, our chapter at our school has been able to light up the homes of nearly 1,000 families. My name is Sabino Yalbata, and I am a grade 10 student at the International School Manila. And I am not the founder of 1 Million Lights Philippines, which was founded back in 2011 when I was an infant. And I am not the founder of 1 Million Lights ISM either, which was founded back in 2017 when I was still a student here at Xavier. So what makes my journey different in 1 Million Lights? Why am I speaking here today? Well, take a look at this photo here. I think this might explain it. This was a distribution, a solar lamp distribution we did back in April 2023 in Sitio Irid in Barangay Daragitan, Tanay, Rizal. And here, the first thing I'll tell you about this photo is that everyone in a club needs to be 9th grade and onwards. That's ISM school policy. You can only start to participate in clubs and join clubs once you're a 9th grader, which for us was the beginning of high school. But the thing is here, I was an 8th grader. And the other thing with this photo is that this is a council photo. So like any high school club, as you could imagine, you have your general members, but then you also have your council, consisting of people here in this photo like the treasurer, the PRO, the secretary, the vice president, the president. And it turns out that the one person in this photo who was technically not meant to be there had somehow ended up becoming the president. So how did that happen? Well, to answer that, I have to go back a year further to here in Masungi Geo Reserve. Now, if you don't know what Masungi Geo Reserve is, it's a geo reserve a couple hours away from Manila, just in Rizal, and it's one of the most prominent protected areas in the Philippines. And back during this time in 2022, I was someone who started to love doing 2 things. I loved adventure. A couple weeks before that, I just got a scuba diving license, and at the same time, I loved to bike anywhere I could go and really see the world out there. And the other thing was that because it was the height of the pandemic, I started to get involved in a few community pantries, and that also heightened my love for service. So when I found out that there was an opportunity at my school to both do service and go out and see the world and hike, I knew immediately I had to go. And so I asked, knowing that it was prohibited, but I was fortunate because someone got sick and there was a space that was freed up. Well, not fortunate for the person who got sick, but fortunate for me because I was able to come and experience my first 1 Million Lights distribution. And there I am. You can see me there again, covered in that circle. And the thing that kind of surprised me was that everyone on that distribution was a senior, someone who was in 12th grade. Now, I knew everyone was going to be a high schooler, but I expected at least some 9th graders, some 10th graders, but no, everyone was about to graduate. Turns out that 1 Million Lights ISF had a pretty difficult time getting more 9th and 10th graders to join. And to be fair, who could blame them? It was a grueling 8-hour hike, traversing from one ranger station to the next across the mountain. But the only thing that really kept me going was knowing that if I found this difficult, in pure daylight, doing this once, I could only imagine the rangers who dedicate their life to doing this, whether the sun was shining or not. So, after seeing my passion and my engagement, I was able to come to yet another distribution in November 2022, and shortly after that, it came time for the seniors to graduate. And so, by that time, the problem of getting 9th and 10th grade engagement was still up there, and they had to find a new president. And so I was asked the question, would you become the next president of 1 Million Lights? And I said, what? Could you become the next president of 1 Million Lights? I said, what? Here's the thing. You said you like service, right? You said you're service driven. And you know, as you've seen, you really enjoy this and you kind of have a knack for it when you're there. Okay? And the other thing is that you're adventurous, aren't you? You said you like an adventure. Well, just think of leadership as one new big adventure for you. And partially out of the obligation and the respect I had for the club and everything, I decided, you know what? Okay, I'll take the leap of faith. But I didn't really think about the fact that becoming the youngest president of any organization at our school would have its fair share of implications. The first thing is that I had no experience. I had not led a team before in my life, and now I was being asked to lead an entire club. The second thing was that I did not have any authority. Because could you imagine someone barely stepping foot into the door of high school, suddenly telling seniors and juniors what to do? And the last thing was that I also felt that I didn't have much capabilities yet at the time. I hadn't developed enough skills to turn any of my goals within 1 Million Lights to real life. So, okay, came time to start assembling the core team, and I said, all right, let me assess what I have. I have no experience. Okay, fine. I have no authority. Oh, okay. And I have no capability. Oh, crap. The thing is, I started to think about this and asked myself what I really could do in light of not having these things. And I simply told myself, you know what? It's all right. I don't need to know how to do everything. I just need to find people who can. So I began trying to bridge these gaps within myself. I started with experience, right? Not only did I try and work often with 1 Million Lights Philippines, our national chapter, to really understand the process of what organizing service looks like. But at the same time, I tried to also think of the most organized people I knew, and people I knew who had a lot of experience when it came to planning service. And the next thing is authority. Well, I knew two really great seniors who I asked to become my vice president so that that gap could be filled. And the last thing was capability. I wanted, after seeing what the current problem with 1 Million Lights ISM was, I decided that I wanted to make sure we were filled with underclassmen, filled with 9th and 10th graders who would join. But I didn't know how exactly to do that myself. So our teams began trying to find all the artists, all the journalists, all the people who were into videography in our school, and we started publishing lots of media and documentaries that increased our membership. And before I knew it, we started to grow a lot. And when 1 Million Lights Philippines started to realize that we were very serious about this, we were sent a photo by Jolo. Now, Jolo's our partner at 1 Million Lights Philippines, and he sent us this photo, and we were trying to decipher what it was. You know, one person in my team was like, that's some sort of communal gathering area. Another person said, maybe that's some kind of typhoon shelter, I don't know. But it turns out that that was actually the elementary school of Sitio Kalipungan in Porac, Zambales. And not only was it an elementary school, that was an elementary school that taught 67 kids. Picture that. No floor, no wall, no chairs, no tables, nothing but a pair of blackboards. And the other thing that Jolo told us now that he explained the situation in his photo, is that he asked us if we were interested and willing to do an overnight distribution. Staying in the community, living with the community, and immersing ourselves there for a day on top of the service that we were doing. And that would be the first time that our chapter had gone on overnight distribution in its 7 years. And so, we decided to try it out. The journey there took 7.5 hours because our van broke down in the middle of the way, and we had to get repairman all the way from Manila. But we ended up making it there, and immediately once we got there, we began to tour the community. We began to look around, and then we got to these beautiful sand dunes with all the kids, and we began to take our slippers off and immediately began playing tag. We began interacting with the kids, bonding with them for hours in the afternoon. And as we got to nighttime, we were there in the campfire with them, playing and singing and dancing. But it wasn't all just fun too. As I told you, it was also about immersing and learning what life was like for them. So not only did we cook with them and eat with them, another thing was that we also, they also didn't have running water, right? So we were there learning how to use the groundwater pumps with them. And they also didn't have functioning flushing toilets, so yeah. And the other thing is that they also didn't have much accommodations for us. The chieftain, of course, he so generously offered his house for us to stay at, but we were still 12 people. So there you can see on the bottom right, the four of us sleeping outside on a tarp on the ground. And then a few hours later, when it was time to wake up, we then got to teaching and distributing the lights. And this, for me, was kind of a testament to what I was starting to learn. That leadership didn't mean you had to do everything yourself, but making sure that everyone else could too. And so there, we broke up into groups of four, we split and subdivided the community amongst us, and one person was in charge of teaching the lights, one person was in charge of physically demonstrating it, and you had two people cross-checking with the community to see if they actually understood. And then we said our goodbyes, and it was time to leave. But we knew that we had a bond with this community, and we told ourselves that if we could, we'd want to come back. And after that year, as the year came to a close, we were able to raise a record amount of funds, and then we found out that they just built a new elementary school, and that we had the opportunity to provide them with a solar power system. And so we came back. It was like a family reunion. We were seeing all the kids were seeing us, we remembered each other's names, and we began playing again. And at the same time, we brought some new friends over as well. Our counterparts from 1 Million Nights BSM, British School Manila, had joined us as well for their first overnight distribution. And what really opened my eyes about these kids is that these are kids who have little resources in life. They barely get enough to eat. They, of course, don't have running water or electricity. And these are students too. Students, 67 of them, who study in that small space with no floor, no wall, no chair, no electric fan in the summer heat. And yet, here we were, playing the same games, making the same jokes, laughing at the same Snapchat filters. And that's when I started to realize something about service that would kick in at the end of my journey in this distribution. But what made this distribution really special was this next photo here. No, I didn't forget to put something in. That is a picture of their elementary school. Except that it happens to be that it's at night. Because this was the first time in a 1 Million Nights distribution where we were finally going to get to see the impact of what we had done at night. And so, we began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We all counted down together, and in an instant, comes. The lights began turning on, and the kids started rushing towards there, and they were sprinting, and it was absolutely euphoric. And so we followed them inside, and we ended up helping teach the printers to them, helping teach the new laptop we got them, helping teach the TV, and also the power system we got for them. And the mood in that elementary school was unreal. You could feel the kids so genuinely joyful and so genuinely excited for the new things that were to come their way. But suddenly, my attention was directed elsewhere because I heard sniffles behind me, and then I turned my head and I saw Teacher Elaine with tears running down her face. Now, let me introduce you to Teacher Elaine. She's one of the 3 teachers in the community, and she is not from Sitio Kalibunan. She comes from Ora. She's actually a public school teacher there, and it's a 7-kilometer walk every time she has to teach. So that's 14 kilometers back and forth for these kids. And the story about her is that even with the modest public school teacher salary she has, she still tries to scrap with little left she can do to get the kids extra food, to buy them malunggay, to buy them corned beef, so that they can have a more balanced diet. This is a woman who does everything she could possibly do for these kids. And she was also the reason that we were able to get in touch with them. She was the glue that connected 1 Million Nights, ISM, to Sitio Kalibunan. And she was also the reason that the elementary school was able to be built. So, for her, when I asked her why she was crying, I realized that this was really a full circle moment for her. Because for her, this was her seeing the fruition of all the hard work that she poured herself into. And then I started to realize something about service that I had not noticed before. Up until that point, I'd always believed that service within 1 Million Lights and service anywhere was a transaction. There's a giver and there's a receiver. There's a benefactor and there's a beneficiary. You give something, someone gets something useful to them, and they say thanks, and you're off. But here I was, with a true leader in front of me, someone who dedicates her life to kids who live across the mountains from her, and someone who spends every fiber in her body fighting for them so that they can have a better life. This is someone who was inspiring to all of us. And then I started thinking of the parents of this community too. These parents, earlier that day we had like a livelihood program with them where we were seeing what they did to make a living, and they would pack thousands of banagal leaves a day into sacks, and they would sell them tirelessly for 20 pesos a kilo in the hopes that one day their children would not have to do the same. And to me, this is also something that we can all be inspired by. And then I thought of the kids themselves too, who, as I said, grew up with barely any resources, who can't learn in a proper functioning learning environment, and yet here they are, some of the most kind-hearted, generous, hospitable, and friendly people I've ever met. And I started to think about my experiences within 1 Million Lights and learned that service really is a two-way street. Sure, we were giving them something material, solar lights, a solar power station, but in return, we were getting something just as valuable. We were hearing and learning of the stories of compassionate, hardworking Filipinos everywhere. And I started to realize that my time at 1 Million Lights ISM internally, leadership started to feel the same for me too. I started to think back a year before then, when I was still too afraid to speak up during meetings or to actually use my voice because I was a ninth grader. And there, I leaned on my older peers who showed me what it was like to command attention and to direct attention. And then I thought of all the people in 1 Million Lights who hailed from other countries, people who transferred from other international schools, not knowing how to speak a lick of Tagalog. And there they were in distributions, trying their best to interact with the locals, having the bravery to try teaching the lights in front of everybody. And that was something I learned from too. And then I thought of all the people in 1 Million Lights ISM who were more experienced than I was, who were more authoritative than I was, and who were more capable than I was. And I learned somewhere along the way, I picked something up from all of them too. You see, I felt that each time I was leading someone, I was also being led into a new direction or a new skill. And that's when I learned that the two of them really intersect. And that each time you lead someone, each time you serve someone, it's all the same. Think of it as having one more person to learn from, having one more story to be inspired by, having one more teacher in your life. For myself, that was when I realized that I wasn't just giving lights to people. These people were lighting up something within me as well. Thank you.